Earlier today, Patriots de facto GM Elliott Wolf reiterated he is open to anything with the number 3 overall pick. Of course, we're a week away from the NFL draft. Also said that trade talks are happening. Patriots and tackle Calvin Anderson also agreed to renegotiate a contract today. Reduces the base value of his deal down, also creates $990,000 in cap space for the Patriots. Former Ravens running back J.K. Dobbins signing a one-year deal with the L.A. Chargers. Maple Leafs going to be the Bruins' first-round playoff opponent. Series opens 8 p.m. on Saturday night at TD Garden. Remainder of the dates and times of the series still to be determined because the regular season slogs on. The NHL wraps up tonight. The league formally approved the sale of the Arizona Coyotes and the team's relocation to Salt Lake City, Utah for next season. Celtics still don't know who they're going to be playing Sunday, game 1 of the first-round playoff series at TD Garden. It's going to be the winner of the Heat and Bulls in their play-in game tomorrow night. Now, the Heat going to be without Jimmy Butler for that game, and going forward, as Butler is going to be out with an MCL injury. Probably multiple weeks with that. And Bulls' Alex Caruso also dealing with a significant ankle sprain. His availability in doubt for that play-in game against Miami. Red Sox lost to Cleveland today 5-4. They will now head off for a weekend series in Pittsburgh against the Pirates. Headlines are brought to you by Dr. Matthew Lopresti and Leonard Hair Transplant Associates, the hair doctor of Hardy and Brian Scalabrini. Call 1-800-GET-HAIR. I'm Jim Murray from Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 for Sports Hub. Kevin Majori has you next in 30 minutes.
No matter where you go, you're always connected to Boston sports with the 98.5 The Sports Hub app. Download it wherever you get your apps today.
Now, you have dog crap in your system.
This is the Baseball Hour with Tony Maz.
They did nothing this offseason.
Brought to you by Bigelow Tea, Corona, Gravely Zero-Turn Lawnmowers, Jackson Lumber, Team Impact, Blue Moon Belgian White, and FindMassMoney.gov. On 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Abreu would hit next if given a chance.
You can see when he goes more to that glove side, it gets a lot more cut to it. Let's see if he goes back outside here.
Clase went quick, and he blew him away. 97 miles an hour in ball game. 5-4 the final. The Guardians win it. They take the series 3-1. The Red Sox wind up going 3-7 on the homestand. So an about face after that West Coast swing, and now we're back to 500 heading on the road.
Yeah, that's a tough one right there. They got themselves back into it, just fell short there in the end. But again, 10 strikeouts on the day. Got to cut those down.
Strikeouts and errors. The Red Sox made 2 more. They've made 20 on the year. That is number 1 in baseball.
Strikeouts and errors. That's the refrain for the Red Sox in this early 2024 season. There was more of it going on over at Fenway Park today. Of course there was. 617-779-0985. We have a full show for you tonight, meaning the full hour, I think. Right, Jimmy? No game tonight.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure I'm not missing anything. So we have a full hour for you here on the baseball hour, and we also have a full hour for you in terms of entertainment. How about that? Chris Cotillo of Mass Live will join us in just a little bit. We have 2 games to talk about, including the performance by Tanner Houck last night. Hour and 49 minutes, complete game, a rarity in Major League Baseball in this day and age, but a terrific performance by Tanner Houck, who I think, frankly, has been one of the few really bright spots for the Red Sox in the early part of the year. But I want to start with this, with the defense, the pitching, really the defense and the strikeouts primarily. Red Sox are now 20 games in. They're 10-10. They went 7-3 on the road trip to start the year, came home and went 3-7. So they are exactly 10-10. They play bad teams, they win. They play good teams, they lose. They kick the ball all over the field, and they strike out a lot. In that way, I would say they've been extraordinarily consistent. They lead the majors in strikeouts offensively. Number 1 in the majors, which is no small feat because the Los Angeles Dodgers and San Diego Padres have played a couple of more games. Again, I go back to that Korea series to start the year, the series in Korea to start the year. So the Dodgers and the Padres have a couple of more games. I don't know if the Red Sox have quite caught up yet, but you get the idea. They are striking out at a better than 10 a game. 202 strikeouts in 20 games. So that's 10.1 if you're doing the math. And with regard to the defense, 2 more errors today. Rafael Devers was out of the lineup. In fact, we did this earlier. I'm throwing a lot at you for those of you who are maybe on the way home from the game, whether you're listening at home, whatever it is. The starting lineup for today for the Red Sox had 2 players making more than $1 million. 2. One of whom was Pablo Reyes, who kicked one at third base, made an error. The other was Reese McGuire, who's basically been a backup catcher his entire career. That's it. And just to give you some perspective, the minimum salary in the major leagues is $740,000. Okay, so if you're going by annual salary, it costs you a minimum of $7.4 million to put a team on the field. That's 10 players, 9 fielders, 1 DH, $7.4 million. The Red Sox salary today came in at about $1.5 million more than that, I think it was. So let's call it about $9 million to put the team on the field. Rafael Devers did not play. Pablo Reyes was in his place. Again, he made an error. David Hamilton made an error at shortstop. Yes, another one. 3 more unearned runs. Jimmy Stewart, I have an idea. I think we should start keeping track, like somehow statistically on the website or otherwise, or come up with some sort of bit to highlight the unearned runs that the Red Sox have allowed this year, because they've allowed the most unearned runs in the majors. And they allowed a crap ton last year. They lost the game 5-4. They give up 3 unearned runs. Pablo Reyes made one of them. So, and I have not really heard this audio yet. Cora, Jimmy, if we could, let me punch this up myself, just so I get these right, Jimmy. But Cora was asked a number of things after the game. Just a general comment on the defense. Cora, number 1, please.
We need to play better defense. That's the bottom line. And, we don't, 2 routine plays we don't make, and then we don't turn a little play, and we lose by 1. So just got to keep going, Show up early tomorrow, early work, take grounders, keep pushing them. They're good defenders. They are, It's just we're not making plays right now.
Okay, so Pablo Reyes actually had a reputation when he came here from Oakland, if you remember this, of being a good defender. He's played poorly. David Hamilton allegedly has a reputation for being a good defender. He's played poorly. The left side has been a freaking disaster, frankly. And now feels like a good time to mention that payroll again. Our buddy at Boston Sports Inf on Twitter put that lineup out there today with the salaries for the Red Sox players at every position. That was a Pittsburgh Pirates lineup. That was a Pittsburgh Pirates kind of lineup. It's embarrassing that the Red Sox are fielding a team with that kind of payroll in this kind of market, with those types of ticket prices and these types of expectations. And do you remember what Dennis Eckersley said about the Pittsburgh Pirates lineup a couple of years ago? A hodgepodge of nothingness, I think was the exact quote. A hodgepodge of nothingness. That's what the Red Sox are putting on the field right now. That's what they put on the field today. A hodgepodge of nothingness. And it's not like it's costing a cheap nickel to go over there and watch the games. So that's number 1. Now I want to get to Cora's comments on Pablo Reyes, if we could. Jimmy, I want to know specifically what he said. Every time I hear Cora talk about the defense now more and more, I think he sounds more and more frustrated. Let's start with number 5, Jimmy.
What did you say from Pablo? He's kind of sloppy defensively.
You said it, inconsistent. He made some good plays today, but in that one he rushed himself and didn't set his feet and threw the ball away. So he's been inconsistent.
Okay, and there was one more comment. He was asked about Reyes before. Remember, Jimmy, I know you remember the famous comment about Reyes last year that Cora said when the Red Sox picked up Pablo Reyes and all of a sudden had a need to play a guy like him more regularly. Enrique Hernandez was struggling at shortstop. Defense at shortstop was a problem. Chaim Bloom's solution, and we'll get to more on Chaim Bloom later, but Chaim Bloom's solution at that time was to pick up Pablo Reyes. Cora said famously what, Jimmy?
I don't think Pablo can play every day.
I don't think Pablo's an everyday player. Right? Good job, Jimmy. Good memory.
Well, I was trying to find the drop, but I can't find it. It's frustrating.
That's okay. Take your time. If we find it, we can use it later. Totally fine. But it feels like Pablo Reyes in particular.
Too many tabs open, Maz.
Yeah, probably froze up on you. The Pablo Reyes, it feels to me, it strikes a particular nerve in Cora. I'm sure he likes him. Reyes ended up having a pretty good year last year, as it turned out. But the defense, a mess. And just before I get to your calls, and again, we'll get to Chris Cotillo too, can I just read you the lineup? Jarren Duran leading off, no problem. It's actually been one of the better Red Sox this year. Tristan Casas hitting second, again, no problem. Wilyer Abreu, he's inconsistent too, sort of all over the place. I think he's a big league player. I liked him last year, but the truth is, we don't know. He was your number 3 hitter. Number 4 was Emmanuel Valdez, who might not be a big leaguer at all. He was at second base. Connor Wong was your DH hitting 5th. Your catcher in the 5-hole. David Hamilton was your number 6 hitter. I'm not sure he's a big leaguer. Pablo Reyes was your 7 hitter. I'm not sure he's a big leaguer. Reese McGuire was your 8 hitter at catcher. Wong, by the way, was your DH today. Reese McGuire was your catcher hitting 8th. Reese McGuire is a backup catcher. I think he's exactly what he is on the roster to be. And Ceddanne Rafaela, batting 161, was your number 9 hitter. Duran, Casas, Abreu, Valdez, Wong, Hamilton, Reyes, McGuire, Rafaela. The Boston Red Sox put that on the field today as a starting lineup on April 18th. It's a spring training lineup. It's a Pittsburgh Pirates lineup. Pick any other small market team in baseball that you want. You can call it that kind of lineup. It's not the kind of lineup we should have here. Ever. Martin in Texas on Tanner Houck. Go ahead.
Hey, Tony. I mean, Tanner Houck had a pitched a nice game the other night. It was really fun to watch and everything like that. But people are already, anointing him like he turned some sort of miraculous corner only because of one game. When really it's hard, it makes it hard to enjoy it when Garrett Whitlock immediately goes in the IL and we already have an opener the next day. And, the jury's out on when Nick Pavetta's coming back. So it's like, how do you even take, the little bit of joy they give you into anything when it's immediately just turned around in games like what they did today?
Okay, so Martin, I'll tell you what, you're going to have to, I think we are all going to have to adjust our expectations for what a reasonable goal is for the Red Sox, because this is the kind of year it's going to be. And listen, I don't like it. So I don't want anyone to mistake that. I don't like it. You want to call and bitch about ownership or bitch about the manager or bitch about the players or whatever, the ballpark experience, anything, have at it. I'm hardly going to turn you away. But I would also say, if the Red Sox come out of this season and someone in the group of Bayo, Tanner Houck, Whitlock, and right now it looks like Houck, someone in that group steps up and becomes a stud, well, there's a gain in that. Small one, but a gain nonetheless. Houck has been, thus far, terrific, and it's really not just one outing. 3 out of the 4 have been really good. Did you know, I just looked this up, Jimmy Don't Cheat, although you're probably following Twitter. Do you have any guys Tanner Houck has walked this year, Jimmy?
I do, because I saw your tweet about it.
Okay, 2. 2 walks in 26 and a third innings. 2/3 innings. 2 walks. Pretty good. And I think it's the number one reason why he's pitching the way he is. He's in the strike zone a lot. Lance in Nashua. Lance, what do you got?
Hey, Tony, you kind of stole my thunder with the payroll. I was driving around listening to the game, and they gave us that stat. Quick correction on you. The total salary in today's lineup was $8.9 million. I heard that and almost drove into a telephone pole. Like, you're comparing it to the Pirates lineups of past, but in the name of Jason Kendall, that's disrespectful to the Pirates. We've had teams fielded where every single player on the field has made that as a minimum salary. And you can hear it in Cora's voice how defeated he is. On the other station earlier this week, he was talking about not creating other outs for the other team. And that's all they're doing left and right. And it was important that they got off to a fast start this year. I don't know how he's going to stay composed with this lineup ownership's giving him.
Yeah, he's not. And look, again, what I said earlier is that the minimum it costs to put a lineup on the field is $7.4 million in salary. That's what I said, the minimum. I said the Red Sox today were around 9. I think you said the number was 8.9. Okay, so I didn't do the actual math, but I knew a couple of guys were close to double, and they, basically had minimum guys at the other 7 or 8 spots. So that makes sense. $9 million. Yes. And yes, Cora's frustrated. He should be. It's a joke, frankly. as a Red Sox fan, you should not have a $9 million lineup. That's a freaking embarrassment. Now, my guess is on some level, somebody over there is happy about that. And I mean, I'm not just talking about from the, economic standpoint, because obviously the owners are happy because they're putting more money in their pockets if they're only paying $9 million for the team on the field. And that's in total salary today. Okay, that's not the actual cost per game. That is salary to put that lineup on the field. $9 million when the minimum is 7.4. So the Red Sox went $1.6 million over the minimum to put that team on the field today, which is embarrassing. Embarrassing. Let alone the fact that it lost and isn't very good. And the thing about the outs, and this is obvious, but I'll say it quickly, the Red Sox suck on all sides when it comes to outs. Cora made reference to this too. The comment, plain and simple, is they give away outs on defense. They give them away on offense too. Tristan Casas trying to run to third base for no godforsaken reason. And they've run into some other outs on the bases here in the early part of the year. They strike out like it's going out of style. This is hardly, again, revelatory, but it has been described to me and to you and to many people over the years as a game of outs. That's the contest. How many can you record while making it difficult for the other team to record? That's the whole game. That's what it is. The Red Sox, 2024 edition, suck at it. We'll talk to Chris Cotillo of Mass Live next. regularly than I ever was. How about that? Chris Cotillo of Mass Live was one of those contributors. Joins us now on the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline for his 2024 debut here on the Baseball Hour. Christopher.
Tony, how's it going? Good to be here.
How are you enjoying this this dumpster fire of a season so far, Chris?
Well, they asked me to play shortstop. I said no, so I'm with you now. I'm here.
Okay, so here's the obvious question that I think a lot of fans would have at this stage. What is there to look forward to, Chris? Like, what if this thing has any chance of turning, especially given all the injuries that have also piled up too? How is it going to happen? Is there any way they can keep this thing on the rails and give us a good baseball season?
Yeah, I think they just would have to, inexplicably and very surprisingly, based on preseason expectations, they'd have to outpitch the opponent every night. You know, the rotation has been, up until today in a bullpen game, like historically good. I think it's their best ERA through 19, 20 games in the live ball era. We've seen, it looks like Cutter Crawford, Tanner Houck, Garrett Whitlock, before he got hurt, take huge steps forward. There's still, I think, a level to get to for Bayo. Pivetta, kind of a consistent piece when he's on. That's a big if. But if those guys are able to pitch at this level, which is probably not going to happen, I think they could stay in a lot of games. I think it's just there's holes everywhere. Obviously, defensively, the loss of Trevor Story and the trickle-down effect of that has been well covered. So I think that's something that, is almost irreplaceable. But defensively, that's a huge issue. The bullpen has not been very good. But, I think Sean McAdam and I said in our pod earlier this week, like the fact they're 10-10 with everything that's gone wrong so far, the offense being bad most days, the defense being horrible all season, the injuries piling up, really is because the rotation has willed them to games. No better example than last night with Houck. So if these guys are really, taking that step forward into being five, like number ones or number twos, which, look, they've pitched that way so far through 3 or 4 turns. If they're really all-star caliber and they can stay healthy, they'll keep them in a lot of games, and maybe that's the path forward to look forward to. But it's a big if, and the rest of the roster has been not just very disappointing, but very beat up, obviously.
Okay, so let me just throw a couple of things at you just so we can get people some information with regards to upgrades and the status of the pitching in particular. What is the prognosis for Whitlock?
Seems pretty minor. Cora, you can kind of tell body language with him when he knows an injury serious or not. And that one, I think it's going to be the minimum 15 days, 3 turns, shut him down, get the oblique healed up. Not an arm thing like he battled twice last year when he had an elbow issue. So
okay.
I don't think they're too worried about that.
Okay, what about Nick Pivetta?
He's throwing a bullpen over the weekend in Pittsburgh. I think probably a bullpen and maybe a live BP. If they can do that and keep him out of a rehab game, he might be back, maybe in a week at the best. They seem to think that, you see flexor strain, you get really nervous, but it's mild. I think they think he's going to be back sooner rather than later. So, it's not good to have 40% of a good rotation, which it has been, again, surprisingly, on the IL at this point, but I think they look at those guys and it's nothing major. And so nothing catastrophic past, obviously, Giolito.
Okay, and from your standpoint, is Tanner Houck for real? What is the big reason for the Tanner Houck turnaround?
I think it's just strike throwing. You saw last night he came out and threw 25 of 30. 25 of his first 30 pitches for strikes, throughout the whole game, very quick innings. I mean, it was kind of the antithesis of the things that we've seen from him that have been an issue before, where he's nibbled and not been able to throw strikes and walked a lot of guys. I mean, last night was, I think, the best performance we've obviously seen from him or any Red Sox pitcher in a while. But all season he's done that, pounded the zone, mixing and matching pitches. Andrew Bailey's motto here is throwing nasty stuff in the zone, and I think that he's really bought into that. He's been able to slow it down. He said last night it was like playing catch in the bullpen with Connor Wong before the game. That continued throughout the entire outing. So, like I said, those 3, and we'll call them young because they are relatively, but Crawford, Houck, and Whitlock, the steps they've taken, forward so far, I think are the most positive development for this team. If they can get Bayo, who's been, pretty good but not excellent, to kind of do the same thing, and Pivetta back healthy, I think it's a group that there's a lot to be encouraged by, and the Andrew Bailey thing is real.
Okay, I thought the last game for Bayo was a little bit better. Chris, I thought he had much better command of the pitches. I just want to ask you another question about Houck. And, as you said, he slowed it down. When you say it, what do you mean it? Just the game, his delivery? Because to me, his delivery feels much more controlled than it has been in past years.
Yeah, I think just the whole thing, just the whole, not getting caught up in certain moments of certain at-bats and just trying to throw his best pitch no matter what. I mean, we see, when he came up, he was a two-pitch pitcher. Andrew Bailey has really looked at these guys and said, all right, we're going to teach you new pitches. You're going to try to throw it all in the strike zone. That's your main goal. I think guys come up and they're afraid to throw it in the zone because they're afraid of getting hurt by a home run.
Sure.
When you're a rookie, you're a second-year guy, you're coming up and you're just trying to avoid damage because you're afraid of going back down. But when you're, an established isn't the right word, but you know what I mean, a guy who's got a rotation spot, they're going to tell these guys, throw strikes. If they hit a solo homer, they hit a two-run homer, that's fine. The metrics say that you should throw that pitch in any count. And again, that's the motto. Everybody in the organization's been saying it, throw nasty stuff in the zone. There's not a lot of nibbling from Houck. You could see, just the big thing on him throughout his whole career. It's not been the stuff. It's been, can he hit deep into games? Yeah, and can he command the baseball? Last night was a strike throwing exhibition, and he threw, 94 pitches in 9 innings. Like that, to me, is something that he was not able to do under the previous regime in previous years, and a very, very good sign for the Red Sox.
Okay, I have a question for you because it's something that I saw in a game. He when you say, I think you said new pitches a minute ago. Every time I see an assessment of Tanner Houck, I see splitter, that he throws a split-fingered fastball, which he worked on last year or the year before. Have you asked about this at all?
No, I mean, these guys, honestly, it's hard to keep track sometimes of how many new things they're introducing. And Julian McWilliams with the Globe and I have a joke that, what is next for Tanner Houck? Because he keeps introducing new things, like, is the forkball coming next or is the knuckleball coming next? Because it seems like, over and over and over again. But you see what Whitlock's done with the cutter that's kind of improved, and the gyro slider. I know there's a sound that Jay Stu has to make now, an effective press that I said the gyro slider, but they have identified these pitches. They've taught them on the fly. With Houck, I think it really doesn't matter almost what he throws. It's just the fact he's putting it in for really the first time in his career. That has made the difference.
Okay, and I'm gonna the sound effect you were talking about is called a slide whistle. That's the sound effect, and there we go. So Jimmy had it on cue for you right there with the gyro slider. I'm gonna give you a little bit of 2 cents here on my part that I would like you to ask Tanner Houck about at some point because listen, everybody calls it a split. There was a game I was watching last week. I can't remember if it was the Angels game when he got knocked around, or it might have been the game before it. He threw a pitch that everyone called a split. He got a swing and miss. I think it was against Mike Trout. So it obviously had to be the Angels. And when I watched his hand on the delivery, it looked more like a circle change than it looked like a split. Now, this is a technicality because, they're different pitches. Don't get me wrong, but they're both used. They're both used to effectively for the same purpose, which is they tail down and away to the arm side, or in this case, down and in on a right-handed batter, down and away from a lefty. But I would like you to ask him about it because I think it's different. I think he is throwing something different. I think he's throwing something more like a change, and he's throwing it, he threw it hard, his split hard anyway, but this is just a little softer, a tick softer, and I think it's made a difference. So there you go. Well,
I guess it head to Pittsburgh with a homework assignment, which is great. Yep. I think also last night he talked about, and I thought this was pretty interesting, not necessarily trying max velocity, and sometimes, throwing it at 90% to kind of preserve the stuff, or just that, the influence of command and how important it is. And, I know there's a lot has been made of Bailey trying to get these guys to throw harder and max velocity, and we heard about that with Giolito before he got hurt and some of these other guys. But Tanner Houck last night was saying, as long as it's in that 91 to 95 window and I can spot it, that's what matters to me. It doesn't have to be 95, 96. And interesting to hear, I say that. They've also, they like, I know he got hit hard a little bit today, but a guy like Cooper Criswell doesn't throw in the upper 90s. He's throwing in the low 90s. And They like the east-west movement and just the fact that he can pound the strike zone. So It's clear that, there's going to be solo homers, there's going to be damage, but I think staff-wide, organization-wide, they just want these guys to try to fill it up as much as possible.
Yeah, you know what? It's a novel concept, Chris. It's called pitching. It's called pitching instead of throwing. It's called pitching. But anyway, we're up against it. We got to let you go. Again, Chris Cotillo of Mass Live via the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. Chris, as always, thanks for the time.
Anytime. Thanks.
Okay, there you go. Chris Cotillo of Mass Live. Jimmy, thank you for dropping him. Kevin Majoris, get your headlines here. When we come back, I want to look a little bit more closely at Tanner Houck. And I have a big picture question for Red Sox fans out there. In fact, I'm going to ask you it now because I'm curious as to whether or not many of you or any of you have an answer. How much do you blame Chaim Bloom for all this? The predicament the Red Sox are in, how much do you blame Chaim Bloom? Like, I would love to know, do people look at it and said, Chaim Bloom really set him back? David Hamilton, Chaim Bloom guy. Pablo Reyes, Chaim Bloom guy. Like, these guys that they have, and the fact that the pitching is no better off than it was 4 years ago is because Chaim Bloom didn't make it better. How many of you still blame Chaim Bloom? And I have an accompanying Chaim Bloom theory when we come back.
Here's the throw, and he threw it his head.
That was an impossible play.
They're going to call the runner out.
Was he on the grass?
So Hamilton has been called out by the first base umpire, Marquez. Down to second moves Connor Wong.
See if he can go on the grass here. This makes no sense.
Did he go over the bag?
Oh, that's what it was. He missed the bag, and they tagged him.
And that's why Cora was looking at it, and they're not going to review it. He's out as he missed the bag.
Last week, stunning. I think that was on Friday, if I remember right. That was against the Angels. Turning a double play, missed second base.
And they're bigger, Maz. Like, this is what's so unbelievable about this.
Good point,
They're
Jimmy.
bigger bases.
Good point, Jimmy. Okay, good point.
This angered me so much last night, Tony, that I texted you, and I generally try not to bother you when you're home, but this one was like, this is a Little League play. You run through first base, you touch first base, and then you peel off to foul territory. He sidestepped towards fair territory. So even if he touched first base, which he didn't, he made a movement towards second base, and the Cleveland infielder tagged him. He would have been out for trying to go to second base as well.
So, Jimmy, honestly, see, I saw all that stuff on Twitter too. I don't think he turned to go to second. He turned his body left instead of right.
He made a step towards fair territory.
Yeah, but I don't think it was enough of a move for the umpire to call that. He got called out because he missed the bag.
No, I know that, but these are two things that are basic things that you're taught in Little League, and he couldn't figure them out.
So, but missing the bag, how do you explain that? It's a quick thought I have about the Chaim Bloom players that were acquired by the Red Sox, and I'll just rattle this off quickly. David Hamilton was one of them, and I'm just giving you a bunch off the top of my head. Okay, Franchi Cordero, Wilyer Abreu, Winkowski, Josh Winkowski, Nick Pivetta. There's one more. I can't remember. Emmanuel Valdez. And when you look at all these guys, I feel like a lot of them have just really poor baseball IQ. Okay, so, and that's a basketball term to say basketball IQ, but Tristan Casas said the other day it was a low IQ play when he ran from second to third. Franchi Cordero they all have a plus tool. Okay? Franchi Cordero has power. David Hamilton has speed. Winkowski has what I would call, frankly, kind of a lousy attitude. Nick Pivetta has a bad attitude. What has stood in Nick Pivetta's way and in Josh Winkowski's way, I would really say more than anything, is their temperament. That's what it is. There was another one. There was another player in there that I was going to add. No, I can't. Oh, Alex Verdugo. What was Alex Verdugo's biggest drawback as a player? And I would say his attitude. He had the ability to play in the major leagues. But all of those guys are guys that Bloom acquired. And you know what they all have in common? Aside from flaws, plus tools, the flaws are flaws that you could not necessarily see on a stat sheet. So these are flawed players that an analytics guy would acquire. And you'd say, well, yeah, but look at his power metrics. Off the charts for Franchi Cordero. Except he had no real understanding of how to play the game. David Hamilton can run like crazy, but he keeps missing bases. Wilyer Abreu, whom I like, makes sloppy mistakes in the outfield. He'll run down balls in the air, but if he has to field the ball on the ground, do you notice how many times he kicks it and their ball's right at him? Most of his errors come in balls that are on the ground, at least the ones this year. Who have I left out? Just go right. Again, Winkowski, what's in the way of him is his attitude. Same for Nick Pivetta. It's his head. It's not his arm. It's his head. So all of these things are things that can't be measured on a stat sheet. I mean, or rather, it can only be cannot be measured on a stat sheet. I get that right. The point being is that the analytics only tell you so much. This is why these guys were available. Anyway, been meaning to get that off my chest. Matthew in Florida, quickly. What do you got, Matt? Is Matt there?
This team
Okay, go ahead, Matthew. Sorry.
I agree with you. This team is a low IQ team. I mean, this team's baseball IQ and baseball instincts are at the bottom of the ocean. And, I mean, that's how low they are. And, I mean, I get it. Some people want to complain about ownership. Ownership's become stingy. But you know what? I can accept the fact that maybe we've become a mid-market team. I can't accept stupid baseball. That's what they're playing, stupid baseball. Cleveland is a mid-market team. And guys like Steven Kwan, even though they're not super talented, they're high IQ. They run the base as well, and Cleveland just beat you because of that.
So Matthew,
smart baseball.
How do you fix it?
I think Cora is part of the problem.
He's part of the problem. He's not the problem again. Because I come back to something else, and thank you for the call. You can't fix stupid. You can't fix it. It's not just. There's a difference between inexperienced teams and stupid teams. There's a difference. Inexperience is one thing. Some of the stupid stuff is unfixable. How can you coach a guy to hit the base? Hey, David, by the way, when you run down first base, you got to step on the bag. That's the manager's fault? Or if you're turning a double play, you got to step on second? That's the manager's fault. Coaching to me is technique. Coaching to me is, hey, crossover step, come across the bag this way, try doing this, try doing that, your arm slots off, your tempos or your hands are in the wrong place in the batter's box, you got a loopy swing. Like, that is some of the coaching. The stuff we're talking about, stepping on the base, that's stupidity. That's just careless, lack of focus, call it whatever you want. But that's not, some of that stuff you can't coach. And you can say it as many times as you want. If the player doesn't implement it, how do you make it work? Coaching and management, getting the most out of your talent is something a little different in my mind. I think a 7-year-old knows that when you run to first, you have to step on the base. And understands that you have to coordinate your feet to be able to do it. I mean, that's pretty basic. Tom's in West Roxbury. Tom, go ahead.
Oh, Tony, what a great show you have. Tony, I was going to mention maybe Chaim Bloom could have done a better job too, but it's hard to find real baseball people like that, like the guy that was Dave Arquette or Larry Lucchino, people like that. Larry Lucchino just passed, but it's hard to find really good baseball people that can tell good talent.
Yep, Tom, I agree. Evaluation's a big part of it. And again, the Red Sox right now kind of stink at it. So, this idea of finding diamonds in the rough, all these guys come with some sort of problem, and there's a reason why they didn't make it somewhere else and they were available. Now, when you draft guys and develop them, it's like buying a new car. They're untainted. There's no outside influence. But some of these deals that Bloom was making for some of these guys, again, why do you think Alex Verdugo was available in the first place for Mookie Betts? He was supposed to be the centerpiece of the deal. Alex Verdugo's problem is Alex Verdugo. It's his head. That's what the issue is. Those guys are hard to fix. Now, unless you're Manny Ramirez and you're a Hall of Fame hitter, your head is going to get in the way. So, the Red Sox have done their fair share of screwing up guys too, don't get me wrong. Tanner Houck was screwed up. The reason why it's taken him so long to get this right is because they yanked him all over the place. They drafted him as a sinker baller. Then they wanted to turn him into a strikeout pitcher. Then they realized the movement on the sinker ball was so great, they shouldn't have changed him in the first place. By the time they got him back there, his delivery was so screwed up. His confidence was shot. It was like how the Patriots handled Mac Jones, for crying out loud. Same kind of stuff. So now it's taken a while. They've got his delivery under control. And you heard what Chris Cotillo said of Mass Live. Nasty stuff in the zone. Dude, why are you trying to throw your slider outside the strike zone? Or your two-seamer? It moves so much, they won't be able to hit it if it's in the strike zone. And you'll get a called strike if they let it go by. So throw it over the effing plate. Huh. What do you know? Novel concept. Pitching. 94 pitches last night, 69 strikes. Stay in the zone with movement. And you know what? Or high velocity. And when you're in the zone, hit the correct parts of the zone. Hit the edges, not the middle, generally. Although in Houck's case, it might not matter. because his ball moves so damn much. Virtually impossible to hit. We'll be back with the Between the Lines baseball report. We'll finish it up with your calls as well when we come back on the Baseball Hour.
Stay tuned for more of the baseball.
Chicago, Illinois. Red Sox wrapped up a 10-game homestand today with a loss to the Cleveland Guardians. They are now on to Pittsburgh. And before you laugh at the Pirates, let me tell you that they're better than you. The Pirates are 11-8, and that's 11-8 rather, and that's true despite the fact that they've lost 3 in a row. They were 11-5. Their pitching staff ranks 13th in the majors with a 3.94 ERA. Offensively, they're in the same area. They're 11th. And unfortunately, this one kid is not going to be pitching for the Pirates this weekend. He would be the guy to watch, though. Jimmy, have you heard about this kid the Pirates have named Jared Jones?
Oh, yeah, he's fire.
This kid is 20. He was drafted in 2020 in the second round out of high school, I think. I'll see if I can find out his exact age. I want to say he's like 21 years old, 22. This kid throws freaking bullets. And so far, again, he's not pitching in the series, but he's so damn good, I feel like I have to mention him. 32 strikeouts and 2 walks so far this year. He has a 3.13 ERA in 23 innings. 32 strikeouts, 2 walks. But the Pirates are no joke. And if the Red Sox put a lineup out on the field like the one that they have, like they did today, the Pirates will have a better positional team on the field than you will. Just wanted to point that out. But that is your Corona Between the Limes report.
Is that another draft hit by Ben Cherington?
Could be. It feels like those small market teams all draft well, which is another sort of warning to the Red Sox. If you're gonna run it like a smaller mid-market team, you better draft well. And it doesn't feel like you've done all that great a job with that, at least since Dabrowski left. We'll see, although they got a couple of guys in the minors coming. I don't mean to dump on that. Marcelo Meyer, Kyle Teal, Roman Anthony, but not a lot of pitching.
Well, Cherington was smart not to draft Marcelo Meyer with that number 1 pick. He took Henry Davis, the catcher outfielder.
Oh, okay. All right. I misunderstood what you meant. Meyer might be able to play, though.
No, bust.
He's having a good year at Double-A, so we'll see.
We'll see how long before he gets injured.
Quickly, do this fast. Brendan and Franklin, what do you got?
Hey, Maz. When I saw the lineup today, I was just astonished. Like, John Henry needs to sell the team. He does not care anymore. Like, this is Major League Baseball, and I know I can't stand all these errors. Like, this, they got to clean this up soon.
Yeah, Brendan, it was embarrassing. It was a Triple-A team today, frankly. Jim in a car. Jim, what do you got?
Hey, Tony, you were talking about the Hamilton case. I wonder if it's a mental case. Did this guy maybe step on a bag one time and hurt his foot? It's like you get bit by a dog when you're a kid, and then later in life you're afraid of dogs. I don't know. I watched this kid. It's like he tries to avoid the bag.
It's mystifying.
On purpose.
Yeah, it's mystifying. I just wonder whether or not he sort of can't get his feet right. You know, you're not always going to be in perfect stride to hit the base, but as you get close, you know I got to either extend on a stride to get there or shorten on a stride before I hit the bag. He can't do it. I mean, he's missed 2 bases in the last 4 games. 1 defensively, 1 offensively. Max in a truck. Quickly, Max, what do you got?
Hey, Max, this team is a disgrace. You got David Hamilton, can't even hit first base. You got Tristan Casas getting picked off. You got Tristan Casas trying to steal second to third. Like, what is going on? This isn't on Cora. This is just, you can't fix stupid people. Thanks for taking my call.
No, I told you we're working on the T-shirt. You can't fix stupid. You can't fix stupid in all walks of life. So you can, there's no way around that one. Tough to coach that one up. Look, again, I know people want to blame the manager. In the big leagues, the talent's a big part of it. Okay, the talent and the aptitude. Joe Murray coming up next. He's got you for the rest of the night. Majority's got your headlines. We'll catch you.